Hey everyone, welcome to the Powersports Talk podcast, brought to you by Motovan. I'm your host, Éric Ménard. Each episode we bring you stories, insights, and conversation from across the powersports industry, from the people who live it to the brands that drive it. So today on the Motovan podcast, we will have a conversation with Stuart Long at Kriega. What's your official title there, Stuart?
So official title is export manager, but I think like a lot of people in a lot of businesses, that scope is quite wide.
Yeah, I guess so. But you've been in business for how many years now?
Just 26 years now. We started in the turn of the millennium, yeah.
Okay, and how did who started the business? How did it come along? Where did what was the need to fulfill for the guys that started the business?
Okay, so it was started by the two founders and still current owners. You know, we're still owned by the founders. Back in 2000, both keen motorcyclists, both loved motorcycling. Both actually previously worked in the outdoor industry, so with things like wall climbing backpacks. There's a fundamental problem with motorcycling that has existed from the very first motorcycles back in, 1880, 1890. And the problem kind of still exists today, and that is motorcycles are wonderful, they're exhilarating, exciting, they're good for your mental health. They're all of these things, but what they're not very good at is actually carrying anything.
No.
You want to celebrate everything wonderful about motorcycling. You go down to the shop, buy yourself a beautiful bottle of wine, 6-pack of beer. You got on your motorcycle. You walk out of the shop, and that's exactly it. So it's a fundamental age-old problem.
Yeah.
Now, when the guys set up, they set up because they could see a gap in the market in what was very much started. The genesis with the company was backpacks. So it's very much a case of, actually, you know what? There's no motorcycle-specific backpacks available. So there were motorcycle branded backpacks, but generally they would be a leisure backpack that's just been rebranded. So nothing that's actually been made from the ground up specifically for the unique environment that is motorcycling. So what they wanted to do was create a solution for that, a little bit selfishly, because they wanted to make something that they could use themselves. I think like a lot of businesses, that's how it starts. It starts from
it
trying to solve a problem that you've got yourself.
It feels like your products are really rider first. It's all about motorcycling. It's not. Sometimes you see companies offering products for motorcycling that aren't really made for riding. It's made for outdoors or something like that. But what are the specific needs for a bag for motorcycling compared to outdoor sports?
So there's going to be a few things. One is ease of use. That sounds obvious, but we know historically that if you make something difficult to use, people don't use it. It's as simple as that. It's got to be built to withstand the unique environment that is motorcycling. So motorcycling by its very nature, you're riding along the road at 100 kilometers an hour. The elements that are hitting that are actually quite extreme. So you've got to have materials that are going to be able to withstand that. Then you've got actually ergonomics and actually how it fits and how it works on a motorcycle. So all these have to be taken into account when you're designing a specific product. We always say with the backpacks, can you use them for other purposes? Absolutely, yes. Are they going to be the best for hiking or climbing? No, is the honest answer, because they have been designed specifically with motorcycling in mind.
But there's differences in the rider types, because you have gear for adventure riders, other gear for hardcore off-roaders. So how do you make the bags, adapted to all these kinds of riders?
Well, the problem for all of the riders is essentially the same. So whether you're riding off-road, whether you're riding road bike, your positioning is the same and you want the same solution. So you want something that's going to be comfortable, you want something that's going to be secure, you want something that's not going to have flaps flapping around. Now that's the same whether you're on an adventure bike or a cruiser. So actually the the solution becomes or the problem becomes the driver for the main solution. What we tend to do, we sometimes push some products in another direction because they're a little bit more suitable for that. So we have backpacks that are more suitable for adventure riding, but there's no reason why some of the urban backpacks that we do can't be used for adventure riding, because fundamentally the problem they've solved is the same.
And it's a world of fast fashion. How do you guys stay on top and selling not cheap gear but proper gear for riding? There is a distinction to be made in the people's mind about good products or better products.
Yeah, I think it comes down to remaining with the ethos that was set up when we started, which was it's a design-led company, so things have to work. It's important about design and function before it is about fashion and looks. So we want to be an old classic company, not a new fast fashion company. Yeah, we're very specific with that. So I think as long as you are true to the ethos, it's not a problem. People understand once you explain what the differences are, what the quality is, and people do appreciate that. And it's interesting, I think probably in the last 10 years or so, I think maybe some people's mindset is changing a little bit on how they consume products. So actually, it's a lot of people are understanding that it's better to maybe have something that lasts a little bit longer because it's less likely to end up in landfill.
Sometimes you say, I'm not rich enough to buy cheap, because if you buy cheap, you're going to buy another one. Especially with adventure riding, one summer and cheap gear is done for sure. Yeah. So I guess people that want to ride for a long time buy, Kriega.
That's right. What do they say? Buy cheap, buy twice. I think is the saying, isn't it? And it is. And if you look the life of a product, per dollar, year per dollar setup. Actually, when you start to look at that, and you start to get some of the evidence of products that we've had, and this is good or bad. I'm going to say this from a trade perspective. We have people come and tell us that they've had a backpack. Joyfully tell us they've had a backpack for 20 years. Brilliant. But a little bit of us is going, can you maybe buy a new one there? But it's great because actually that product has lasted bang for buck, per year, per mile, per kilometer. Actually, it's really, really cost effective.
We can't talk about Kriega without talking about the quad lock harness. That's one of your main innovations. What inspired it?
So the inspiration behind the quad lock was finding a solution to a problem. So as opposed to starting with that being a nice aesthetic, the problem that was always apparent with motorcycle backpacks was how they manage the load in the pack. Yeah. So what we wanted, or what the thinking was very much like a walking pack, was to take the weight off the shoulders, put it onto the chest and the waist. So that's the first thing.
It's good for rider fatigue also.
Yeah, so it's really critical because there are pressure points in your shoulders. So anybody that's ridden with a cheap backpack will understand what that feels like. When you start to get that pressure pushing down on your shoulders. So it was really born out of trying to find a solution. Now the other solution that kind of came from that was finding a way of eliminating straps that needed to be moved and changed and adjusted every time you put it on. So say that quad lock was born from solving these problems. The byproduct of that is actually you've got a harness setup that once it's set up, you never need to adjust it. So it's not something you put on. It's not like a cheap backpack where you put it on and then have to adjust it up and undo it every single time. Once it's size set, and that's keeping things simple.
Unless the rider himself changes size.
Unless the rider himself changes, which I always say my leathers fit a little bit less well after the winter. I think that's a standard thing, right? But the byproduct of the quad lock harness is also then the way it fits, because the way it fits, the way it manages the load, means that actually it pulls the strapping straight down, which gives you two things. One, it actually takes away the impediment from your shoulders. So it means you've got a lot of movement on your shoulders. It also means it's really easy to put on when you've got a jacket on. So if you've got a jacket or leathers on with armor, you know, it can be quite difficult to get in and out. It means it's really, really easy to get in and out. So those are the kind of things that have been shown by solving the solution, you know, and we always say we're a design-led company. You know, it's always about the design. The aesthetic comes second. You know, we're not a fashion company. I think that the best story I've got on the back of how well it works, some years ago, I was setting up with a new distributor, gone over to present. They're pretty well on board with it, but there was one guy, the senior sales guy, who was a little bit skeptical. You know, you can never sell to a salesman, right? So we kind of talked it through, and I knew he was riding, so I said to him, you know, I've got a sample here, maybe just take the sample. I knew he was riding home. He lived a good distance away. It's about a 4.5 hour ride. So he loaded it up with all of his stuff from his cheap backpack, you know, his laptop and his clothes that had been down at the office for a week, and, you know, his toiletries and all of this. Rode home, and he called me about 4 days later and said, yes, Stu, I got it. And the reason is because he rode 4 hours home, got off his bike. The first time he remembered he got the backpack on because it was so comfortable, because the quad locker worked so well, was when he knocked the lamp over in the hall. So he turned around because he'd forgotten he got the backpack on. Really? So, you know, that was you know, the perfect example of how the quad lock works, you know, how it shifts the weight, how it makes it so it's, I wouldn't say it's invisible, but it's virtually invisible. You know, it really does manage that weight and that load very, very efficiently.
And usually when a rider has proper gear that fits him well, he will use it like every day, and he's going to become a fan of his gear. I guess you've seen that in shows. Yeah,
very much so. I'm going to say it's a combination of, we see that a lot, and people become, I think, strangely attached to luggage generally, but particularly when they've got something that works, they use it a lot and they tell everybody a lot. And we do, I kind of mention it a lot. We get people come and tell us at shows how long they've had their backpacks for, how much use they've had out of it, which is wonderful. Obviously, we want them to buy a new one, but the message that they're putting out there amongst their peers with that message is way stronger than any marketing we could ever do. It's way stronger. It's a stronger message than anything I will ever get, because for some reason people think I'm slightly biased.
Well, I don't know. People, satisfied customers become ambassadors for a brand. Usually.
They do, and we see that a lot. And and that gets replicated across reviews and things like that. So it's a great story if people can carry on using what they've got.
I saw the video on your website, and I actually posted it on my Facebook page because it's so good. The video with Chris Birch, which is an out of this world rider. So I guess you guys have some of these guys in mind when you're developing products also, because these guys, a lot of really good riders, test the bags to their limits.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, these guys are testing it to extremes. And doing things that you shouldn't be able to do on any size motorcycle, let alone some of the big ones. Yes, so testing wise, that's pretty critical, but we don't forget the daily test, if you like. What Chris is doing is very extreme, and what it does is actually ages products very, very quickly. So it's perfect for that. But what Chris is doing is not going to the shops. He's not going to work every day. He's not putting his lunch in and things like that. So it's kind of a bit of a mixture of that extreme testing, but actually just the whole day-to-day testing. And all of us are doing that on a constant basis,
Yeah. It's a bit like putting your bag in an oven or a freezer for 2 weeks. Just lend it to Chris, and it's like 4 years of use for a regular rider.
And a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, I've seen it right at KTM Adventure Rallies, and I was like, Jesus, is there something he can't do? It's very, very impressive. It's social media era. How do you guys work with social media with Kriega? Because, it's not the sexiest products. So how do you innovate and bring the good word to the people about Kriega?
Well, we've got things like working with Chris, with Paul Torres, with the Yamaha. So we work with Paul as well, and then we work with selective other social media influencers. We're quite specific about who we work with, because we want them kind of to believe in the product. You know, we don't want to just get them to say something positive because, yeah, for the money. So, so that's really, really critical. So, you know, when we're looking at somebody, actually, you know, we're not going to work with somebody that's and fair play to them, they're making a good living out of it, some of them, but that's not our market. You know, we want somebody that's going to have a bit of credibility about what they're saying, and a bit of belief in what they're saying as well. Yeah, that's probably 9/10 of the job, is actually the belief that they put over. It doesn't look like, you know, they're not going to be advertising Kriega one week and the opposition 2 weeks later. So that's the trap we don't want to get into.
Do you still do like big motorcycle shows and events, or you're all based on new social medias and stuff like that?
It's we do some events, not too many now, and there's a couple of reasons for that. So in the UK, well, interestingly, next month we're off to London. We're going to the Bike Sheds Moto Co. They do their show in Tobacco Dock, so we're looking forward to that. We've never done it before. There's a big adventure bike rider festival in the UK, which I think is probably the biggest in the world now. It's a phenomenal event. Mixes motorcycling, the music, the ADR festival.
Okay.
So it's a phenomenal draw from across Europe now, and they've done a really, really good job of promoting that. We do those. We've found that where we are in our life cycle now, or our development cycle, is we've got less need for the B2B shows like EICMA. So.
Right. I know.
So yeah, we haven't done an EICMA for a few years now, just because we've kind of balanced on where we are, what we're looking to do, how we're looking to promote, you know, what B2B business we're doing, and that's what that is. So in consumer shows, we are probably a little bit more focused on them.
If you look at, you know, the first bags or the first few years of Kriega and what they were offering then, and then you look at the things that you're offering now, what are the major differences?
Well, you know, the funny thing is there's not that many differences. So we tend to try and keep, if something works, we tend to try and keep it in the lineup. You know, it has consistency. We've proved it works. We've got knowledge there of how it works. So, for example, the first two bags that we made into the range, the R35 and the R25, the R35 was in the range until last year. The R25 is still in the range. It's been updated 18 months ago, but fundamentally it's still the same as when we started. So it's very much a case of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. And how do you approach, you know, because it's obviously about having good products, but it's also about marketing. And, you know, in my career as a journalist, I see new companies coming in and out, and they're always the best, they're the most innovative. How do you differentiate yourself from, you know, new products coming in or other, you know, long time standing companies? What's the difference that Kriega can offer?
So the first thing that we do, and I think we're quite unique with this, certainly with luggage manufacturers, we put a 10-year guarantee on everything. So we kind of put in our money where our mouth is.
10 years.
Wow. So again, that's quite a strong message for dealers and consumers. You know, actually they're going to get some backup, and it kind of comes with the life of the bag. So we very much try and promote it along those lines. We're probably not as shouty as we should be. I think that's something that down to the British mentality. So, but yeah, we try and subtly promote things. So if you ever go on our website, you'll see a news story section. And if you ever sign up to our newsletters, which I would definitely encourage people to do, what we try and do is actually we try and do a story element as opposed to just this is what it is, buy me now. And actually, if you read the stories on there, if you're into motorcycling, they're fantastic stories. We've got an ex-moto journalist. It may be somebody you've bumped into over the years, Gary Inman, and used to work for the big British motorcycle press. He's moved on. He's had his own magazine, so he writes very much in a very good editorial manner. So we've actually got really, really interesting. We're trying to be a little bit more subtle the way we market.
You think you market motorcycling products differently from outdoor products or regular products? It seems to me like it's more about making people dream more than talking about the gear.
There's a bit of both. It's kind of trying to get over the message of what's different. So why our product is different. And funny enough, some of this goes, and I'll come on to this in a second, is why we also champion dealers. So there's a bit of the marketing, just trying to explain what it is different. But yeah, definitely, if you look at our social media feeds, there's a lot of imagery there that is something that you're going to aspire to. It's aspiration imagery. So that's very on key at the moment. So yeah, maybe some of it is a little bit more lifestyle, but say we did try and double down and actually try and explain what the difference is. It's the materials. If we're using zips, we're using YKK zips. If we're using aluminum for all the Canadians, Americans there, we're using aircraft grade 6061 T6 aluminium. We're using Corduras, we're using Hyperlons. So it's just trying to get that message across when we do that. The second part of that is actually we do try and work with dealers. We are big champions of brick and mortar. We still believe there's a place in the community for those brick and mortar dealers. For that local community, it's really important to have that resource there for somewhere to go, somewhere to get knowledge, somewhere to go and touch and feel things. Yeah, we kind of understand that a lot of buying is that. I think is the best way to describe it. So when we do marketing, it is a bit of a mixture of being a little bit more subtle and a little bit of actually trying to help and support dealers.
So do you have any new products coming out, or are you working on something that we could know about?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So that's a double-sided answer there, isn't it? So yes, there's some new products going to be coming out, going to be dropping in the summer. I can give you a rough idea. There's going to be a collaboration with a very well-known motorcycle racer, British motorcycle racer. Can't say too much more than that.
Okay.
There's going to be an addition with the OS, the Overland System range with the big panniers. There's going to be a brand new backpack that is very much designed for the light enduro race market with a brand new harness. But again, I can't say too much more than that. So that's something we're really quite excited about. It's something a little bit different, and I think we're going to take quite a bit of the segment of that market because it works so efficiently. So those are coming through. Longer term for that, we've got more product coming through in 2027. The process is quite interesting when we start to bring through new product, just because one of the advantages we've got, much like Motovan, being a smaller company, founder-owned, we can be super, super self-critical.
Yeah.
So if a product isn't correct, it doesn't get released. So we've got no drive. We're not, we haven't got the sales figures to hit. We've not got to make this quarter, so we're not going to bring something out that's not going to work for the sake of putting numbers on it. It's got to be correct. It's got to be right. So we're super, super self-critical. But with that said, we've got a list of products that are coming in the pipeline to the point where I don't know what I'm going to do if they all come at one time.
Well, that's a good problem.
It's one of the good problems for sure.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think it sums up pretty much what I wanted to ask you today. Thank you for your time. Good luck to Kriega. Success. And I guess we'll see you probably next year for another series.
Okay, perfect. I look forward to it. Yeah, and thank you for the time. I've really enjoyed it.